to my spoiler-free Gears of War 4 review. For those of you who don't know, Gears of War 4 takes place 25, I almost said 24 years, I blame Gears of War 4, 25 years after the Locust War has ended, and it follows Marcus Phoenix's son and his son's friends in an adventure. The campaign took me 8 to 10 hours to complete, and I played the first half of it via online multiplayer, and then I played the second half of it via split screen. The other thing you should know is that I have played Gears of War 1 about 3 times, and I played 2 and 3 and Judgment once, so I do have a little bit of experience with the Gears of War franchise. Not a lot, but a little. And this is kind of a nostalgic thing, so I'll talk about it anyway. Gears of War was the first Xbox 360 game, also the first Xbox game I ever owned and played. I skipped the Xbox back in the day because who knows why, I just did, okay? So it's really nostalgic for me to be reviewing Gears of War 4 because, like I said, Gears of War was the first one I ever reviewed or played and bought, so it's kind of cool for me. Okay, moving on. So I'm not going to talk about the story of Gears of War 4 too much because I don't want to spoil anything, and I will not reveal any details, so don't worry. But I will say this, if you are a fan of the Gears of War franchise, then I would, by all means, you must play this game. If you are a newcomer to the series and you're wondering if you can just pick up and play Gears of War 4, I would say absolutely, you totally can. And I would also say to both of you that you just know going into this that this game is definitely a setup for a sequel, so don't expect any major holy shit moments. I mean, there are moments in a game where you're like, oh my god, but nothing like, oh my god, I'm not gonna say anymore. So just have that expectation going in. I say this because there are plot points and certain loose ends that are never touched upon again. You know, like some shit goes down in a game, you're like, oh, that's very interesting and that's significant, and then it's never talked about again. So just be prepared for that. But I personally found the story, it was, like I said, it wasn't one of those, oh my god, but it was definitely entertaining, and I think a lot of that is because of the characters that you meet and get to experience and see banter and watch banter back and forth between one another, especially the interactions between Marcus and the characters. I think that they are really, Okay, so here's the thing with me, and I've talked about this before, my nose, it just, oh, that was weird, in my reviews, and the thing is that I come from a background of loving RPGs, because I love the story and the characters, and like I love learning all about them. So obviously, Gears of War 4 is not a game that heavily focuses on story and characters, right? It's more about the gameplay. Granted, there is a good story there, and there are good characters, but it's just kind of covered up by the gameplay and the action. So that's all well and good, that's what we've come to expect. So for being a shooter and being the kind of game it is, I think Gears of War 4 has some really entertaining characters, and I personally found myself becoming attached to them as much as I could, given that they almost seem a bit... Okay, the characters themselves, I think, have a lot of history, a lot of rich history, and that's evident with the banter that I have back and forth. But unfortunately, during and throughout the events of the game, you don't really get to go into that. So they appear to be a little shallow, but I think there's a lot of richness there. And see, look at me, I'm overanalyzing characters in a shooter game. Who does this? I have to also give a big shout out to the character AI. Like, damn, those guys are good at reviving. Like, I would be across the battlefield, like crawling and like minutes away from taking my last breath. And those AI, they would be on it. So that was really good and really, really helpful. So thank you, AI. Especially you, Dell. So let's talk a little bit about what it's like to play Gears of War 4. Well, Gears of War 4 plays and feels just like Gears of War. If you're expecting something super new and innovative and some amazing new mechanics that completely like revamp the entire franchise, you are so not going to find that here. But personally, I don't think that's a bad thing, but just know that going in. I mean, there's the same active reload mechanic, the same kind of cover system. I say kind of because there are some new things I'll talk about in a second. But there's the same like jingle that plays after you finish an area, same like pinch of cheesy badassery. It's Gears of War. So the new thing that has been added on to the cover mechanic is the ability to reach over said cover if there's an enemy on the other side, reach over, pull them over, and if you push Y, you can perform an insta-kill. It's pretty satisfying and nice and gory, and I personally loved it. Other new things, the enemy, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the enemies are new. There are a few new weapons, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. Actually, I lied. I want to mention that there are these things called wind flares in the game, and with wind flares comes weather. And basically it's a big epic storm that can hurt you severely, and it impacts combat, especially if you are trying to throw a grenade in the wind and it comes right back and hits you in the face and kills you, which, you know, may or may not have happened to me. I'm not saying it did, I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying don't throw a grenade during a wind flare storm. Something I also appreciated about Gears of War 4 was the fact that it diversified the gameplay every now and then, you know, so it's not like you're always running through a corridor, or running through a courtyard, or running through whatever the hell it is you're running through. Sometimes you are driving, sometimes you have cool rope levels, sometimes you are doing tower defensey things, and that was really fun and appreciated. It did a really nice job, in my opinion, of breaking it up, so it's not the same old. Also, regarding combat, I thought that the enemy AI, for the most part, was really good. You know, there were moments where they would just kind of, what do they call it? Pop and pop. No, that doesn't make any sense. Where the head would like pop out behind a wall and you'd shoot him, they'd go back, they'd pop out, you shoot him. I mean, those are my favorite kind of enemies because I'm not too good at shooters because my accuracy is terrible, because I would rather shoot the sky or the rocks, apparently, than the enemies themselves. But the point being is that you do come across those enemies, but then you also have I also encountered some AI that completely like fooled me, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I should be offended or like applauding Coalition right now. You know, like I would go over, we'd both be like behind cover, and I'd like try to go like grab him, pull him over, and push Y and do an insta kill, and then enemy would like dodge roll and then like jump over and then like attack me and chainsaw me, and it sucked. So yeah, like in some instances I could not predict what they were gonna do, but in other ones I could. So hey, I'll take that. That's a win in my book. The battle arenas are also nice and open, which I really appreciate. I mean, sure, there are some like narrow corridor passages where you will have to engage in firefights, but for the most part, they're pretty wide open, and they do give you a lot of options. There's a lot of rooms, there's a lot of cover that you can take. You could flank people if you wanted to. It's awesome. And speaking of cover, the Coalition, I'm looking at you, because what they did a lot of someone called it red herring, which I think is a really, it's an appropriate term for it. Basically, you're gonna come across rooms that are filled with like things that look like they could be cover, and you're gonna come across so many of them, but it turns out there's never a firefight there, but they're keeping you on your toes, and that's kind of fun. So you never know when you're gonna come across something, so it really does a good job of keeping like the tensity up. So yay, thanks for fooling me. Also, shout out to the bosses. Those were really cool. I thought those were awesome, and they came up with some weird ass ideas, but it worked out really well, so yay, props. Finally, from a technical standpoint, I had no issues whatsoever. Nothing broke, nothing crashed, nothing caught on fire. It was ran really, really well for me. The only thing I had a slight, and this isn't even an issue, the only thing that I experienced was a slight dip in frame rate during super intense moments when there's a lot of shit rendering around me. So it wasn't like one of those like, oh my gosh, there's something going on, why is this happening? There was a lot going on, so you almost expect it at that point. But other than that, man, I think that's kind of covers it. So yeah, guys, those are the things I felt most compelled to talk to you about regarding Gears of War 4. I really enjoy the game. I think it's a fun new installment in the series. Although it doesn't answer all of the questions that we have, it definitely is building up for something more. I really like old Grumpy Marcus. He's a really fun character to interact with. I like the cast of characters that you could have in your immediate party most of the time. You have JD, you have Kate, you have Del, and you can tell that there's a lot of rich history there. I just wish it kind of got unearthed a little more, but again, maybe we'll get that in the next series. I mean, it plays well, it plays like Gears, it is a Gears of War game, so if you have played a Gears of War game before, you pretty much know exactly what you're getting, and to me that is not a bad thing, that's a good thing. Give me more Gears. I love me some Gears. And yeah, just props to the Coalition for making a badass game. I enjoyed it. I played it in 2 sittings, because I couldn't stop playing it. I just wanted to find out what happened next. So yay, I mean, yeah, I can't recommend it enough, friends. I really can't. Also, I'm supposed to mention that JD looks like Marcus Phoenix and Andy Dalton had a child. There. I threw you a bone, you know who you are. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll answer them as best I can. Bye!